Injury prevention research in team sports has advanced dramatically in recent years. Football, basketball, and soccer teams routinely use complex algorithms to track player loads, predict injury risk, and optimize recovery, tools that have transformed how elite athletes train and compete. But for runners, especially those training solo, the question remains, can the same science be applied? The short answer is, only partially. While runners can borrow valuable insights from team sport injury modeling, the differences in movement patterns, stress exposure, and individual variability mean that many of those tools may fall short or even mislead when applied to endurance training. Team sports are dominated by high-intensity, multidirectional movements: sprinting, jumping, cutting, and tackling. Injuries often result from acute events, a sudden change in direction, a collision, or a fatigue-driven misstep. Because of this, team sport models rely heavily on short-term workload spikes, player fatigue scores, and readiness metrics to flag moments of elevated risk. Tools like the acute backslash, chronic workload ratio, ACWR, are designed to capture abrupt increases in high-stress activities, which may precede non-contact injuries like hamstring strains. Running, however, is a vastly different beast. It's a highly repetitive, unidirectional activity that places relatively low but constant strain on the same tissues, step after step, mile after mile. Injuries in runners are rarely the result of a single incident. Instead, they accumulate from tissue overload, poor recovery, form breakdown under fatigue, or biomechanical asymmetries that play out over weeks. The stress patterns are subtler, slower to build, and harder to detect with simple workload ratios. That's where the limitations begin. Metrics like ACWR, which flag sudden spikes in intensity or volume, may be less predictive in running, where injury risk is often driven by the chronic mismanagement of very gradual increases, or even from repeating a normal load too frequently without adequate rest. A runner can get injured running the same 30 miles they ran last week if life stress, sleep quality, or tissue resilience dips slightly. The cumulative nature of running injuries makes real-time prediction vastly more complex. Another limitation is how individual runners vary in load tolerance. In team sports, athlete monitoring systems can calibrate thresholds for each player using force plates, sprint times, or neuromuscular markers. Runners, especially recreational ones, rarely have access to this level of personalization. Two runners doing the same 10-mile tempo run might experience wildly different tissue loading based on running form, past injuries, or muscle imbalances. Applying team sport models that assume uniform responses can easily miss these differences and may give a false sense of safety. Yet runners can still learn from the overall philosophy of team sport injury science. One of the most valuable lessons is that risk isn't just about how much you train, it's about how rapidly you change what you're asking your body to do. Runners can apply this by tracking how their longest runs, intensity efforts, or terrain changes shift week to week. A sharp increase in hill running, for example, may be equivalent to a spike in team sports, even if total mileage remains constant. Team sports science also emphasizes recovery readiness. Just as athletes are monitored for fatigue before matches, runners can benefit from self-checks on sleep, mood, soreness, or even heart rate variability, HRV, before tough workouts. Ignoring these can turn an otherwise safe training plan into an injury trap, not because the plan was flawed, but because the runner's context had shifted. Importantly, team sports feature built-in variability. Games are unpredictable, drills vary, rest is enforced. Running is more uniform and self-directed, which ironically makes overuse more likely. The monotony of training, the same pace, shoes, or surfaces, can gradually load tissues beyond their limit, especially if variation isn't programmed in intentionally. Injury prevention in running demands more proactive diversity, alternating shoes, rotating terrain, and periodizing recovery. So while runners can adopt the mindset of data-informed training, the specific tools from team sports often miss key nuances. Injury risk in running isn't about one bad day, it's about a pattern. And those patterns are harder to detect with the same algorithms used to track footballers and sprinters. In the end, runners benefit most not from copying team sport models, but from building systems that respect the repetitive nature of their sport. Think long-term, account for life stress, track trends rather than spikes, and train with a deep respect for your body's unique thresholds. Team sports may teach us the value of prevention, but distance running demands its own language for staying healthy.